December 29, 2024, a day that began like any other for the 175 passengers and 6 crew members of Jeju Air Flight 22 the Boeing 737-800, a common and reliable aircraft, prepared for takeoff at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport. Families returning from holiday vacations, business travelers, and students heading home filled the cabin. Among them were 5 children under the age of 10. Their laughter and excitement a stark contrast to the tragic events that would soon unfold. The flight, scheduled to land at Muan International Airport in South Korea, was a routine route for Jeju Air. With clear skies and calm winds forecasted, there was no indication that anything would go wrong. At 2:11 a.m. local time, Flight 2216 lifted off from Bangkok, ascending into the night sky. For several hours, the journey proceeded without incident. Passengers settled into their seats, some drifting off to sleep while others watched movies or chatted with seatmates. Flight attendants moved through the aisles, offering refreshments and ensuring everyone was comfortable. As the aircraft crossed into South Korean airspace, the flight crew began preparing for descent. Captain Park Jun, a seasoned pilot with over 10,000 flight hours, and First Officer Kim Seung, an experienced co-pilot, communicated with air traffic control at Muan International Airport. At 8:45 a.m., they received clearance to begin their approach. Below, the city of Muan stretched out along the coastline, its buildings and streets bathed in the golden light of morning. Everything appeared routine, until the unexpected happened. Without warning, a flock of Baikal teal ducks, migrating across the region, collided with the aircraft. Bird strikes are rare but dangerous events, and in this case, the impact was severe. Multiple birds struck the plane's fuselage and engines, causing significant damage. The right engine, essential for maintaining thrust and stability, malfunctioned almost instantly. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared as Captain Park and First Officer Kim scrambled to assess the situation. Their training kicked in as they followed emergency protocols, but the loss of engine power severely compromised the aircraft's performance. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Captain Park declared a mayday to air traffic control, signaling an emergency. The control tower responded swiftly, granting immediate clearance for an emergency landing. Despite the stress of the moment, the flight crew remained composed, reassuring passengers that they were handling the situation. The cabin crew moved quickly to secure the cabin, instructing passengers to fasten their seatbelts and brace for landing. Fear and uncertainty filled the air, but many clung to the hope that the experienced pilots would guide them safely to the ground. As the aircraft approached the runway, Captain Park made the critical decision to abort the initial landing attempt. With one engine compromised, the plane's descent was unstable, and a safe touchdown was impossible. Pulling back on the controls, he attempted a go-around, a maneuver designed to give pilots another chance to land. The aircraft began to ascend, but the loss of thrust from the right engine made climbing difficult. Struggling to maintain altitude, the plane circled back for a second approach, all while the flight crew fought to stabilize the aircraft. Compounding the crisis, the landing gear failed to deploy during the second approach. The malfunction left the aircraft without its essential wheels and struts, increasing the risk of a catastrophic landing. Despite the overwhelming odds, Captain Park and First Officer Kim remained determined to bring the plane down as safely as possible. With limited options, they aimed to touch down at the far end of the runway, hoping to minimize the impact. As Flight 2216 descended, its belly scraped against the runway, sending sparks and debris flying in all directions. The aircraft skidded uncontrollably, its metal fuselage grinding against the asphalt. Within seconds, it overran the runway, crashing through the perimeter fence and colliding with a concrete barrier housing the airport's instrument landing system antenna array. The force of the collision caused a massive explosion, engulfing the plane in flames and thick black smoke. Emergency responders stationed at the airport rushed to the scene within minutes. Firefighters battled the intense blaze, their hoses spraying jets of water and foam onto the burning wreckage. Paramedics stood ready to assist any survivors, their ambulances lined up along the tarmac. Despite their swift response, the fire raged with ferocity, fueled by the plane's fuel tanks, which had ruptured upon impact. The heat was so intense that rescue crews struggled to approach the main fuselage, their protective gear barely shielding them from the inferno. Amid the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged. 2 flight attendants, seated at the rear of the aircraft, had miraculously survived the crash. Their section of the fuselage had been partially shielded from the impact, allowing them to escape through an emergency exit before the flames consumed the cabin. Disoriented and injured, they stumbled onto the tarmac, where rescue workers quickly escorted them to safety. Their survival would later provide crucial eyewitness accounts that helped investigators piece together the final moments of Flight 2216. As the fire was brought under control, search and rescue teams combed through the smoldering wreckage, hoping to find additional survivors. Tragically, their efforts yielded few results. Of the 181 people on board, 179 perished in the crash. The loss of life sent shockwaves through South Korea and beyond, leaving families and communities devastated by grief. Memorials and vigils were held across the country, as people gathered to honor the lives lost and support those left behind. In the aftermath of the tragedy, an intensive investigation was launched to determine the exact cause of the crash. Led by South Korea's Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board, with assistance from international experts, the inquiry focused on several key factors. The bird strike, which had compromised the right engine, was identified as the initial trigger. However, investigators discovered additional issues that raised troubling questions about the aircraft's maintenance and operational history. Records revealed that the same Boeing 737-800 had been involved in a tail strike incident 3 years earlier. During that incident, the aircraft's tail had scraped the runway during landing, causing structural damage that required extensive repairs. While Jeju Air had certified the plane as airworthy following the repairs, investigators questioned whether underlying issues from the previous accident had gone undetected. The malfunctioning landing gear during Flight 2216's final approach suggested that residual damage might have compromised critical systems. Further complicating the investigation was the discovery that the aircraft's black boxes had ceased recording 4 minutes before the crash. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, essential for reconstructing the final moments of any flight, had inexplicably stopped functioning, leaving investigators without crucial information. The loss of these recordings made it difficult to determine the exact sequence of events during the final approach, prolonging the investigation and leaving key questions unanswered. As investigators worked to piece together the evidence, Jeju Air faced intense scrutiny from the public and government regulators. Critics questioned the airline's maintenance practices and safety protocols, demanding accountability for the tragedy. In response, Jeju Air's leadership issued a public apology, expressing deep remorse for the loss of life and pledging full cooperation with the investigation. The airline also announced a comprehensive review of its entire fleet, grounding several aircraft for thorough inspections to ensure they met all safety standards. The tragedy of Flight 2216 prompted a broader examination of aviation safety in South Korea and beyond. Regulators introduced stricter guidelines for aircraft maintenance and bird strike prevention, aiming to reduce the risk of similar incidents in the future. Airports implemented enhanced bird detection and deterrent systems, including radar-based tracking and automated warning systems designed to alert pilots of bird activity near runways. These measures sought to prevent flocks of birds from entering flight paths, minimizing the likelihood of collisions during takeoff and landing. Despite these improvements, the families of those lost in the crash continued to seek justice and accountability. Class action lawsuits were filed against Jeju Air, alleging negligence in maintaining the aircraft and failing to address known issues stemming from the previous tail strike incident. The legal proceedings, which captured national attention, underscored the profound impact of the tragedy on the victims' loved ones and the broader community. As the years passed, the memory of Flight 2216 remained etched in the hearts of those who had lost family and friends. Memorials were erected at Muan International Airport and in cities across South Korea, serving as solemn reminders of the lives cut short that fateful morning. Each year, on the anniversary of the crash, ceremonies were held to honor the victims, ensuring that their stories would not be forgotten. The legacy of Flight 2216 also served as a catalyst for change within the aviation industry. Airlines worldwide adopted more rigorous maintenance protocols, ensuring that aircraft involved in incidents received comprehensive inspections before returning to service. Pilot training programs placed greater emphasis on emergency scenarios, equipping flight crews with the skills needed to respond effectively to unexpected challenges. These advancements, driven by the lessons learned from Flight 2216, helped enhance passenger safety and prevent future tragedies. In the end, The story of Jeju Air Flight 2216 is a testament to the importance of vigilance, accountability, and continuous improvement in aviation. While the loss of 179 lives will always be a source of sorrow, their memory serves as a reminder of the critical responsibility entrusted to every airline and aviation professional. Through their sacrifices, the skies have become safer, ensuring that future generations can travel with greater confidence and peace of mind. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth investigations into aviation disasters, safety measures, and untold stories. Your support helps us continue to uncover the truth and share these important narratives with the world.